stop trying to proselytize, don't red pill your friends. Well, there's a reason we say that, and it's because of this goofball right here. Welcome. It's Midswatch. It's Ryan. Hope you're enjoying your vibe. Got your tea, got your coffee, got your whatever it is you're drinking. Beer, wine. I don't even know. But so this one's, it's more of a meta one. Like a lot of these ones are geared towards guys with specific issues in their specific relationships, but this one is more one of the moderators. It calls himself the Blue Pill Professor. He was, and if you don't know the name, that's fine. He was the one who originally wrote the book on dread, and I kind of found it, well, I found it insufficient, and you're going to kind of see why. It was like a big covert contract in that. Anyways, he's going to talk about how he likes the idea of bending the rules of Fight Club, and he likes trolling in the MGTOW, pickup artist, men's rights, and dead bedrooms as the idea of like a cheerleader or recruitment drive for the red pill. And then it's kind of into like why we think that's a bad idea. And I love this one because this was like 8 years ago, but it has definitely come to fruition. Remember that question you always ask, like, oh, do you ever want the red pill to go mainstream? And Rolo is like, oh, I hope not. And I'm like, yeah, no. Well, this is what it was like before then. We worried about what would happen now, and it absolutely did. And it's actually kind of funny. So I'll start with it. I'll start with the post, and then we'll get into Jack Ten of Hearts, and then I'll end it off with my my thoughts on it. So yesterday I was listening to Turd Flinging Monkey. He's a well-known MGTOW warrior and podcast. Jeez. For those not in the know, taking the red pill could result in several outcomes. Some guys swear off women forever when they're confronted with their true nature. These are MGTOWs who only claim the title of true red pill guys. God, this is gonna be a struggle to read, man. This whole thing is just ridiculous. So Monkey was talking about the men who discover the red pill after they're married. He suggested a new term for those guys because they can't be MGTOW. Somebody wants to describe those guys in derogatory terms like big towels, but he suggests the term awakened while married or AWM. Isn't this just like typical for like sexless MGTOW guys where there's like a situation and they're more worried about how to classify it in their little autism dictionary? It's just ridiculous. Anyways, I had to comment and link the married red pill because a lot of married guys were commenting there is no place for red-pilled married guys to discuss married red pill issues. And this bothers me because our success rate is so ridiculously high, we need more married men to awaken. Further, we can fix the problem of underexposure. So for those brave souls, I think it might be beneficial. Go quasi or allied red pill sites and spread the word. I would not advocate for marriage in any red pill site, but certainly advocate for the official position. Which, and I guess this is as close as the married red pill gets to an official position, but we are not in favor of getting married, but we are very much in favor of staying married because it's possible you can use your red pill idea, knowledge, mental models, whatever, to have the life that you and your wife would want. Not worth the risk for a man to get married, but it is worth a try to improve your life if you had the chance of avoiding divorce. And Badgenomi? God, he's trying. The problem I have with this is he's trying way too hard to be the popular guy in the most unattractive club ever. And that's what gets me. It's like, I like it better when we just like leave our pretense at the door. But I mean, I'm getting ahead of myself. So he goes, this is my suggestion. You guys need to go to Stardusk, Sandman, Red Pill Philosophy, and a bunch of the other guys. Bosi Ruch's Return of Kings. Go to the Red Pill subreddit. Go to the Dead Bedroom subreddit. And Behave the Rules and a whole bunch of other plans like this. And he's like, if you go there, you're an ambassador and act accordingly. So, and Jack and I are mostly going to see eye to eye on this one, but this is Jack's 2 cents. He's like, look, the reason I invest so much time in my comments to the guys here, because it's one of the few places that demands you strip all pretense at the door and come in with your unvarnished and exposed ego. Have you ever tried giving anybody in real life advice on anything? It's annoying as shit. Someone saying, can I ask you for advice is usually them asking, can you validate how I already feel about something? Or worse, they take your advice and blame you. Remember that other guy? And this is actually something from you guys. Remember Alpha as Wolf? This is, it's an older Midswatch, the one where the guy went from his wife was about to give him a blowjob to accusing him of assault and then yelling at all of us. It's a couple episodes back. Those who remember, remember. Anyways, that's exactly what he did. Outside of the married red pill though, he's not the exception. That guy's the norm. I think this place is great because I don't need to do any of the Socratic method bullshit. I'm happy to advise my friends because they're my friends and they add value to my life in other ways, but fuck, it's goddamn annoying to have to constantly advise somebody by tricking them into pretending your ideas are actually theirs, which is sort of what the whole cognitive behavioral therapy discipline is about. Married Red Pill is one of the few places that exists out there where we're all able to say, here's where you're fucking up. Here's some tools on how to solve it. And any outcomes are your responsibility. And actually have somebody fucking listen and not cry if it doesn't work. For example, they took everything you said hyper literally, or they listened to a guy who was obviously out of his mind. Now, the reason for this, I'd theorize, is the organic way married men stumble into this place. Starts out with a lonely and depressed guy saying, why is my wife so hateful, or why won't she screw me into Google? And after various clicks across the web, he ends up at the red pill and then eventually the married red pill. And so I'm more than happy to drop 4,000 words of advice on some schmuck whose wife isn't fucking him, because he's going to be a hell of a lot more receptive than most people. And any outcome, actually, you know what, before we get there, it's funny too, because this week's Substack, which by the time this actually comes out, it's going to be a lot later. But anyways, there's a Substack that I just released on my site where I talk about this, where it's it'll make a believer out of you. And it shows, like, this is one of the earliest examples I found where most guys do find the red pill in the same way. But, you know, put a pin in that, we'll come back to it. Back to Jack. Any outcome of a recruiting drive is going to change that. Our current and former military service members can correct me if this is a bad analogy, but I see it as the difference between an enlisted volunteer versus a conscript. One way or another, the volunteers came here of their own agency, so they're more likely to be open to the ideas discussed. Red knighting all over the place may bring us a bunch of conscripts who may be fucking annoying, and we should call them out, but they do have a somewhat valid excuse to reply, the fuck is your problem? What's all this shit that I have to do reading and I'm a loser for not doing so? You told me to come post here. So if you want to grow the subreddit here, I would encourage more non-Reddit content like, oh man, this one actually, all right, I keep stepping out of the voice into this one, but yeah, you should talk about the Hunter Alpha and his brand, or Family Alpha, Zach Small, his brand. This did not age well. Again, story, different time, whatever. If you came to me as one of my marketing clients, this is what I would advise. I would say you have a strong community here, and aggressively growing that community is an option, but not without significant risk to diluting that community. The best way to increase growth is develop more external channels outside of Reddit under the control of existing community members with a consistent theme and message. If you have a political message, say like Fox News, then this is this is the same as launching the Fox Business Network, which is CNBC, but we like Republicans even more. And then it's easy enough to engage in that audience with the canonical Fox News fare like Bill O'Reilly and Hannity, etc. That's way more effective than trying to air Fox News commercials on other TV networks, right? Now, I'm not saying we should never participate in other subreddits. I know one of our guys, his name's Fear Dog, by the way, for one, hangs around dead bedrooms and throws out some good wisdom every now and again, but there's sort of an art to doing that. You need to kind of stick your toe in the water and gradually introduce your ideas and code it in their language, and then other people go, I kind of like what this guy has to say. I wonder if he has anything else. And then they see your posts here, and then they follow the yellow brick road. Socratic method, right? But if you want to do this, go do this. It takes time, it takes work, and you're probably going to have to legitimately want to participate in that community for fun anyway, and not just for the sole sake of red knighting. Now, this isn't true of every community. I'm sure Coca-Cola doesn't give two shits about the quality of their community or their Facebook page and would just urge me to figure out how to fucking spam like buttons. But I think that's true here. And I absolutely do understand the desire for a moderator who want to grow a community. But I think this red knighting thing is going to give you a much different psychological makeup than the guys who currently find this place organically. And that may not be a good thing. Since there is no ultimate good to defer to, you have to know what you want so that you can ask yourself the right questions. So, and he's like, I just realized I left out a good point for why organic, homogenous growth is so important. This place is what could be canonically described as a counterculture community. I mean, if you want to talk about stoicism, I hope everybody here realizes that this subreddit is literally designed to be ripped apart at some point in the future. Hopefully not for a long time, years later, but we will eventually fragment between countercultural members who want to be more countercultural out of principle, and counterculture members who want to be less countercultural in order to be more palatable. So if you want a good example of how this already happened, consider that the pickup artist has, broadly speaking, had a branch that's done the same thing. You know, one side is what I would call the Mark Manson branch, and the other side is the Roosh branch. Mark Manson is much more accepted in mainstream society and can operate freely and push his agenda without problems. Roosh would say that agenda is watered down and he's the real deal and fuck compromising on how you message that agenda and blah, blah, blah. Of course, he's also banned from traveling to a bunch of countries, so maybe, you know, Mark is more successful and doesn't really give a shit anyway. Hell, you're already seeing this split again with Roosh and the Red Pill. Roosh actually started this goofy thing called neo-masculinity, which is essentially red pill except for no gays allowed, if you're curious. So I mean, this will happen to this place. It's up to the mods, but it's really all of us, whether it happens in 6 months or 6 years, and whether it happens when we have 10,000 subscribers or 100,000. And I'd argue that red knighting all over the internet probably just ensures the former is more likely to happen. Second edit. I love this one too, because like there's so much to go on. I find this stuff fascinating, and it's really good to know. Like if you ever want to do your own online branding, this stuff is like really valuable information. So that's why I'm kind of nerding out about it. You're like, why do I care about this? Trust me, they'll get to a point. Just let me get through this. Anyway, so if your goal is for your counterculture to become the culture, then I would only point to the difference between second and third wave feminism. Second wave feminism had canonical thought leaders, Gloria Steinem, Andrew Dworkin, etc., and essentially pushed their agenda as a gradual, homogenous, cohesive group. Third wave feminism is literally a bunch of whiny millennials on Tumblr whining about shit, and they cannot even agree on what shit to whine about. Third wave feminists see Ashley Graham in the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition, and half of them think this is moving in the right direction, and half of them think this is selling out because women being appreciated for their physical holes is conventional, patriarchal, blah, 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 and must be eradicated. And all this does is get the occasional college administrator fired, but it does little to actually impact social change. And the real reason that Ashley Graham is on the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition has nothing to do with feminism at all, really. Except for that, you know, some asshole like me figured out that putting a thicker girl will get a ton of free PR buzz from those feminists screaming at each other and extend the profitable lifespan of a product that is quickly going from a cash cow to a cash sink. Oh my god, that aged well. Anyway, seriously, for all the hand-wringing about left-wing cultural indoctrination and shit, you only need to look at how any left-wing group basically starts and folds every 6 months. Another great example? Occupy Wall Street. Started about arguing shit like the drums 5 minutes into starting. No unified thought leader, no gradual and homogenous growth, just a bunch of millennials yelling at buildings for a couple days before they started yelling at each other. Meanwhile, we have about a 40% chance of, oh, okay, this one didn't age, Marco Rubio being president because the own Occupy Wall Street idiots are now beaming for Bernie. Which is all good until he loses to Hillary Clinton anyway, and those burners end up split between supporting Clinton versus abstaining from the political process, since Clinton's a Wall Street dude. Alright, anyways, I'll skip, this is all like politics stuff, but it's just kind of funny. Yeah, it did happen. Bernie dropped out. They gave it to Hillary Clinton, but it wasn't Marco Rubio, it was actually Trump that took over. That's how old this stuff is. And but he did get it right. He got the name wrong, but he's like, and that's enough to ensure that, you know, Trump gets president, which will almost certainly push an agenda that this is the opposite of what those Occupy Wall Street Bernie supporters would have actually wanted. Good work, guys. So I would predict the blue pill subreddit would eventually split between those that think the red pill is an inherently evil ideology, and anybody who would even buy into it is a misogynistic asshole beyond redemption anyway, versus those who think it's worth considering why it appeals to certain young men, whether it's worth attacking the young men, rather than, you know, Roosh himself. You know why I'm predicting this? Because that's already happening too. These groups wouldn't be able to get their shit together. And I say all of this because I know some guys here, like the Blue Pill Professor, are heavily on the sociological, feminized decay of our society and see the married red pill as some bulwark on it. But man, like a lot of things in life, there's no game here you need to win, and you definitely don't need to win it with more subreddit members. You just need to wait and let all your opponents lose the game for themselves. Now that I've gotten all of that preamble out of the way, here's my thoughts. It's funny. A lot of the people won't even know who these people. What's a Roosh? What's Mark Manson? And it's funny because this keeps happening. This happened again. The split absolutely happened. Hunter Drew was trying to make his whole like socially appealing traditional conservatism one. Meanwhile, I was like, I'd rather just stick to the message and to hell with if it's palatable or not. Same thing, Rollo's side. He wanted to talk about the nuts and bolts. Then you get Myron, Fresh and Fit, Tate, and Pearl, where they try to make it like mainstream appeal, but of course they did it the stupidest way possible. And it really is the same thing you see. So it's almost not even like some leftist conspiracy or some left-right thing. It just seems to be human nature that you'll automatically get a schism when something grows big enough and you have enough regression to the mean of people who want to maintain like a hipster attitude towards something versus people who want to make it social. They want to be invited to the cool kid club. And you're seeing that right now. Pearl absolutely desperate to get mainstream approval. I could give two shits about it. Tate absolutely wants mainstream approval. Myron absolutely wants it. Rollo could give two shits about it. And this is what you got to think about. Like it's more than just don't try to red pill your friends, because I mean that comes in here too. Obviously, you try to red pill your friends and they tend to get mad at you. What'll happen is if he makes up with his wife and goes back to being a supplicative asshole, yeah, but just so you know, my friend tried to get me to act like these red pill guys, and then now he and his wife don't invite you over to their house anymore, so no good deed goes unpunished. Don't help your friends there. And if you're thinking of some broad culture war, it's like it's ridiculous. No culture war lasts. Every time there's a side, it goes to infighting almost immediately. So all you got to do is just sit here, do your thing, carry on, don't create waves for yourself, stick to what you're doing, stick to your job, stick to working on your marriage, stick to all that stuff, and let everybody else punch themselves out, because everybody will lose. Nobody's able to win because everybody is stupid and everybody is ego invested and everybody is so desperate for affection and attention and to win and to be in charge of fuck mountain that they always screw themselves up. So if you just sit here, do your thing, you will come out ahead just from attrition. And I'm a living example of that. Zach Small was having like a big like temper tantrum about us there. And what did he do? He ended up blowing up his thing. He had to go back to his day job. Anthony Johnson tried to make a big mainstream push, blew up at his thing. Nobody even knows who he is anymore, other than a goofy meme I put on my podcast as a commercial. Myron and them, went big. They went hard. They got demonetized. They blew themselves up. Now they're fighting over knocking up a prostitute. Pearl's gone from like great to horrible. I can keep track. Tate's going to jail. Pat Stedman, he was like, we're better than Red Pill. We're going to be mainstream approval. He's in jail right now for attacking the Capitol. Coach Red Pill decided he was better than it too, doing his thing, and now he's dead. So it's like, and I get it, that's like, it's branding, I don't really care, but the same thing for your life. Your friends around you, your family, your coworkers, they're all gonna have horrible marriages. They're mostly like that guy we talked about, Alpha as well. They just let life happen to them. They make instinctive decisions and they screw their life up and they don't care. That's the part you have to accept, is that they don't care that they're screwing up their life. They just want to be told it's not their fault and everything they're doing is okay. Like a child looking for a father to pat them on the head and put a finger painting on their fridge. So when you come in there thinking, I can make a difference, I'm going to give you, here, read this rational male, read this book, here's some things you do. When you tell your wife, and all you're doing is just making your life unnecessarily difficult. And if you really want to invest in that, the Socratic principle is basically asking a guy questions until he comes to the right conclusions and assumes that it was his ideas and not yours. If you're willing to invest that much time in a guy, you have to accept the covert contract that it's entirely possible that you will lead him to water and he won't drink. Now, if you're willing to spend all that investment on somebody and get nothing out of it, including to watch him succeed, and you're okay with that, fill your boots. But for most of us, just live your life. Live your life, let them burn. I don't know how many times we're going to say that, but I've got like hundreds of these examples. I just like this one because it was pretty predictive. The Occupy Wall Street guys did start infighting. It did cost the Democrats the election in 2015. Roosh and Mark Manson and all these guys keep doing fights and things keep splitting up, and it's just funny. And this is why, if you guys ever wonder, like, how did you know that was going to happen? It's because it's happened 4 times before. And now that you're here, you've seen it happen once, you've heard about it happening another time. You're going to be that guy 5 years from now that sees some brand new, flash in the pan, and you're going to be able to predict his career start to finish. And it's just going to be amazing. Everybody's going to wonder, how did you know? You're just going to laugh and go, because of some idiot named Ryan.